Imagine walking into a supermarket. You grab some milk, bread, and eggs. Then instead of tapping your card, you hand the cashier three chickens. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, for most of human history, that was actually closer to reality than using cash. Money is something every single person on earth uses almost every day. Yet very few people stop to ask one simple question. Where did it actually come from? How did humans go from trading livestock to carrying gold to trusting colourful pieces of paper to now sending invisible numbers across the internet? Let's find out. This is the entire history of money in just 5 minutes. Around 10,000 years ago, there was no such thing as money. People survived by farming, hunting, and making everything themselves. But as villages grew, people became specialists. One person made pottery, another baked bread, someone else raised cattle. So naturally, they began trading. This became known as barter. Sounds simple until you realize it had one massive flaw. Economists call it the double coincidence of wants. Basically, if you wanted bread, you needed to find someone selling bread who also happened to want exactly what you had. So imagine trying to buy a cow with 10 fish. Even worse, what if you only needed half the cow? You couldn't exactly cut it in half without creating a very different problem. Barter worked, but it definitely wasn't efficient. Humans needed something better. Different civilizations came up with different solutions. People began using items that almost everyone valued: shells, salt, tea bricks, animal skins, even giant limestone discs on the island of Yap that were so enormous nobody could actually move them. Ownership simply changed by word of mouth. Yes, people were basically using prehistoric blockchain. Eventually, around 600 BC, the ancient kingdom of Lydia, located in what is now called Turkey, changed history forever. They created the first official metal coins. Each coin had a guaranteed weight and purity, stamped by the government. For the first time, people no longer had to argue about the value every time they made a trade. Money had become standardized, and trade exploded. As civilizations expanded, one material kept rising to the top, and that was gold. But why gold? It's actually almost the perfect form of money. It's rare enough that you can't easily find more. It doesn't rust, it doesn't rot. It can be divided into smaller pieces, and people all over the world found it beautiful. Silver served a similar role, especially for everyday purchases. Eventually, entire economies were built around precious metals. Kings fought wars over them. Explorers crossed oceans searching for them. Empires rose and collapsed because of gold. By the 1800s, many countries adopted something called the gold standard. Every dollar, pound, or franc represented a specific amount of gold stored in government vaults. In theory, you could exchange your paper money for actual gold whenever you wanted. Ironically, paper money actually started much earlier. China began using paper currency over 1,000 years ago because carrying thousands of metal coins became extremely inconvenient. The idea eventually spread across the world. Paper was lighter, safer, and much easier to transport. Banks began issuing paper receipts that represented gold stored in their vaults. Eventually, those receipts became money themselves. But then came one of the biggest turning points in financial history. In 1971, US President Richard Nixon announced that the US dollar would no longer be exchangeable for gold. That decision effectively ended the global gold standard. And today, almost every major currency is what's called fiat money. That simply means money has a value because governments declare it legal tender. And because society collectively agrees to accept it, the paper itself isn't valuable. The trust behind it is. Now, here's something that surprises most people. More than 90% of the world's money doesn't exist as cash. It's simply numbers stored on computers. When your salary arrives, no truck delivers cash to your bank. A database just changes. When you tap your phone, you're moving digital information, not physical money. Then, in 2009, Bitcoin introduced something completely different. Money that wasn't controlled by governments or banks. Instead, it relied on cryptography and thousands of computers around the world agreeing on who owned what. Whether cryptocurrency becomes the future or just another chapter in the story, only time will tell. So, over thousands of years, money has evolved from barter to shells to coins, to gold, to paper, to bank accounts, to digital code. And the fascinating part, almost every form of money throughout history shares one thing in common. Its value doesn't come from the object itself. It comes from something much more powerful, human trust. Because whether it's a gold coin, a $20 note, or a number on your banking app, money only works because billions of people believe it does. And that might just be the greatest invention in human history. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to watch more videos, hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.